what's up? This is Atomic Swift, and I'm back with another video. This time another one having to do with the Retropie on a Raspberry Pi. One of the questions I get asked is how do you add ROMs? And I'll even go one further, and nobody asked this one, but I'll show you this too. How to add BIOS files to your Retropie, well, your Raspberry Pi, through your computer network. So it's real easy to do. You can do it from File Explorer. Once you've set up Retropie on your Raspberry Pi and you've went into the settings and input your Wi-Fi so that the Retropie, Raspberry Pi, whatever you want to call it, is connected to your Wi-Fi network, you could just get onto a computer that's on the same home network as your Retropie. Go up here. This is just the Windows 10 File Explorer. Get rid of the quick access thing. Hit backslash. So backslash, and then Retropie. And there you go, it pops up there. You know, alternatively, you could do it this way as well. You could just go to My Computer, scroll down, go to your network, and your Retropie should be right there. And then you can double click, do it the same way there. What's really nice about Retropie is, like I said, it's real easy to add ROMs this way. And like I said, you can add BIOS files. You go into the BIOS. This is the BIOS for every emulator that's on there. Neo Geo obviously is that one. The only other one I recognize is this one, SCPH 1001. That's Sony PlayStation. So you just add the BIOS files into here. Oh, those are just a config. So yeah, it looks like you just add the BIOS right into here. And you know, it should work. If you ever have problems by starting a ROM, you go to because the emulator's already on the Retropie, but if you go and you go to start it and then it immediately goes to black screen, you probably don't have the BIOS file. So you can look online. I'm sorry, I can't show you where to download that. You know, it might be against YouTube terms or whatever, because it's kind of facilitating piracy. But just Google whatever BIOS file you're looking for, like Sony PlayStation USA version BIOS file, and I guarantee you're going to find this file or a 1000 file, whatever, whatever version. And then it'll be no problem starting it up. And same with ROMs. Like I said, I'm sorry I can't show you where to find ROMs. Just Google, I don't know what you're looking for, Super Nintendo ROM file, Super Nintendo ROMs. Google that. It'll bang it, whatever. It'll pop right up, no problem. I never really mess with the splash screens. Actually, I haven't messed with it at all. It's just a text file anyway. Yeah, it just says place your own splash screens here. So I'm gonna have to Google later and see what that is. I don't even know what a splash screen is for the Retropie. If you're getting an emulation, you might have watched my previous video about the Retropie. It is great. I love it. It's a great little way, little box. I can take it anywhere in my house and play Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, Sony PlayStation. Sega Dreamcast is kind of iffy. Same with the Nintendo 64. Neo Geo runs good. Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, all that other 16-bit stuff. The spot where it runs pretty much normal, almost this, well, pretty much the same as the original machine, all the way up to the Sony PlayStation 1. Once you get past the PlayStation 1, like when you go to Dreamcast, Nintendo 64, then, some ROMs, well, most ROMs don't run at full speed, which kind of sucks, because the main reason I got mine was to play Dreamcast, because that's my favorite video game system ever. Huge fan of Sega. Played a lot of PSO on the Sega Dreamcast, so. Shenmue is awesome too, but I mean that doesn't really matter to me anymore because Shenmue is getting a remake on Xbox One and PS4, and then of course Shenmue 3 is coming later this year. But anyway, blah blah. I'm getting off in a whole nother thing. But anyway, so basically you could play Atari. You can look here, all the systems I have on here. So, okay, so here I'm just going to show you. So, if you're doing it from your computer, you can go to open My Computer, or well, Windows 10 calls it this PC. And then just go down to network, and then it should list desktop, Plex server, not everybody has a Plex server. That's my Plex server. It's on my home network, and my Retropie. Okay, so you double click on a Retropie and then go to your ROMs folder. This is going to show you everything, and it's nice because it breaks it down, because then you can add individual ROMs to each individual emulator. So, you know, they have the Amiga, Amstrad, Apple II, Arcade, which is MAME. So like say you want to add something to MAME, Arcade, MAME 2003, and then didn't, I'm trying to remember, what the hell folder was that? Because I know, hmm, yeah, it's weird, huh? Oh, yeah, why is there, oh yeah, that's right, it was MAME for all, my bad, my bad. Okay, so I don't, that's right, I remember, it's been a while since I added ROM, so, you know, please excuse my, got confused there for a second. Okay, so I have no idea what this arcade folder is, what that breaks down, or whatever that is. But like, I wanted to add games to our arcade games. That's MAME. So you go to this one, MAME, MAME for all, and there's, you know, there's my ROMs I have. You just add them that way. And then what is desktop? I don't remember what that is. But like I said, you got your Apple II, Atari 2600. There's my ROMs for that. I don't really play that. I'm sorry. I'd love to say I'm a huge, huge fan of Atari. I had one when I was a kid, and I don't know. Once the Nintendo Entertainment System came out, it was like, yeah, throw the Atari away. That shit sucks. Those graphics are fucking horrible. But anyway, so you got the 5200, 7800 Atari Lynx. I don't know what that is. Commodore 64. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, I believe that's Commodore 64. And then, like I said, here's Dreamcast. Said it doesn't run at full speed, so I don't really try to play anything on there. Every once in a while you want to go through and update your Retropie, which is really easy to do from the menu. I mean, there's other YouTube videos on here to show you how to update the emulators in the Retropie, which includes bug fixes and can speed up some games. Okay, so then you got your Game Gear. Only have a few of those. Didn't really get into Game Gear. I had one, but I mean the graphics were kind of shitty and it only had 2 buttons, which is stupid. I don't know why Sega did that. The Sega Genesis had 3 buttons. Game Gear had 2. Well, I guess the original Game Boy had 2, but I don't know. Game Gear just didn't really get good ports of games. Um, so there's Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Color, of course, and Genesis, which I believe this is the entire, 949. I believe this is the entire U.S. collection of Dreamcast ROMs. In television, Kodi, you can actually use this as a Kodi stick pretty much, and watch pirated movie channels and stuff like that streaming over the internet. Macintosh, I'd never installed anything on there. MAME, of course, like I said before. Sega Master System. Mega Drive, which again is the US version of the Sega Genesis. I don't remember dragging files into both those folders, but maybe it automatically does. The MSX, which is nothing because I never played that. Nintendo 64, this got 24 of these ROMs. Actually, some of these are save files and stuff, so not 24, but Neo Geo, of course. I think all I got for those were like Metal Slug games and the original Samurai Showdown. Of course, the Nintendo Entertainment System. All 712 of these games. I believe that's every US game. Like I said, you can look online and download whole packs of ROMs. Instead, if you just Google has started censoring if you put like NES ROMs torrent. So go to Bing and do it. Just type Nintendo Entertainment System ROM torrent and into Bing, and it'll pop up and give you torrents where you can download entire packs. Like they're nothing. Like if you go to like the whole NES library, like here we'll do that. These are all the NES ROMs I think everyone ever made for the US. Let it catch up here. I mean, I don't think it was anything. Maybe 100 megs, if that. I don't even remember. But yeah, like I said, it's... And usually when you find it on torrents, there's a lot of people sharing it, so you don't have to download ROMs one by one. Um, yeah, it's taking a while to read because it's reading across the network, and the Retropie, the Wi-Fi in there isn't necessarily the fastest. See, so every one 712 is only 71 megs, so it's not bad at all. And then we got the Neo Geo Pocket, Neo Geo, whatever, I don't remember what that is. PC Engine. I think this is, yeah, this is DOSBox. PC, you can play PC games on the RetroPie. PSP, PlayStation 1, which I have a few games for that. You'll see some PlayStation games are broken up by tracks. That's why you're seeing this. Like, this is all Mortal Kombat 3. This is all Mortal Kombat Trilogy. Tony Hawk, WWF the arcade game. Um, didn't mess with Scum Virtual Machine. I don't even know what that is. Sega 32X, of course. Didn't really get into the 32X. I mean, it improved some games, but I mean, overall, 32X was a flop. Everybody knows that. Even a bigger flop than the Sega CD. But WrestleMania, the arcade game, was really good on the 32X. And their cut of Mortal Kombat 2 actually looked better than the Genesis version because it could display more colors on screen at the same time. Sega CD, of course, Mortal Kombat, because of the CD music. The original Mortal Kombat, the music wasn't very good on the Sega Genesis, so they improved the look a little bit on the Sega CD and added the CD music. I believe it was from the arcade. Sewer Shark was the pack-in game. Of course, anybody that had a Sega CD, which I didn't, but my friends did, it came with Sewer Shark. And of course, Sonic CD. The soundtrack for Sonic CD was awesome as well. CD audio. Um, the SG-1000, that's Sega Master System. Of course, that's what it was called in the U.S. was the Master System. In Japan, I believe it was called the SG-1000. And of course, the Super NES, 768 ROMs. That's, like I said, I believe, again, that's the complete ROM set for the US version of the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, which I was a huge fan of Super Nintendo. That's what really got me hardcore into console gaming, was when I got my Super Nintendo. Before that, I was really just playing PC, Doom 2, the original Mortal Kombat on PC. I had my first copy of Mortal Kombat was on PC, floppy disk. I believe it was like 3 or 4 floppy disks. And it was so annoying because they had this annoying copy protection, and it would, like, you'd start the game from the DOS prompt, because I was back, my first computer had Windows 3.11, well, my first like Windows PC, and you would have to start the game from DOS, and then it would pop up with the screen, and it would say, go to page whatever of the manual, line 3, word 4, and you had to enter that word. So like I always had to have that manual by my PC. But anyway, so Super Nintendo, like I said, all the 768 ROMs, 1.02 gigs. Like I said, you can find a whole file with all those. So you don't have to do one by one, but there's ROM sites on the internet where you can find one by one if that's what you're looking for. Vectrex, never, yeah, it didn't come with any of those. Wonder Swan, of course, the Wonder Swan Color. Z Machine, I don't remember what the hell that was, but then of course the ZX Spectrum. Never played the ZX Spectrum, so I mean, I mainly just stuck with like the, Neo Geo, Dreamcast, N64. Said a lot of the games run slow, N64, Dreamcast, but like I said, anything below, like PlayStation 1 and below, runs flawlessly, no problem. I've not had an issue with any ROMs, especially for Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis. I played a lot of Super Nintendo. But yeah, so that's the video, and I think that's about it. That's just ROMs, and like I said, that's ROMs. These are BIOS, so you can drag BIOS into this folder. I highly recommend getting a Retropie. I mean, obviously the best emulator you can find the best emulation machine is your PC. I mean, your computer can play everything. Dreamcast, Super Nintendo, PlayStation 2, my Retropie doesn't have PlayStation 2. I don't even know if that's an option. Never really looked into it. But because PlayStation 2 really wasn't one of my favorite systems. I mean, it had some good games, don't get me wrong, but I was more into like my Sega Dreamcast. I had way more games for my Dreamcast. The most played game I played on my PlayStation 2 was probably Grand Theft Auto 3 and then Vice City. And then, of course, later on was San Andreas. But around the 64 generation, I was playing Nintendo 64 more. I used to get down on wrestling games and GoldenEye with my brothers. But yeah, like I said, it's great. If you look in one of my previous videos, I show you where I bought my Retropie. And the exact one I got, it's a Raspberry Pi 3. I didn't overclock it or anything. You can speed up the Nintendo 64 and the Dreamcast emulator by overclocking. But videos I was looking at, you actually had to add a heat sink and stuff onto some of the chips. I didn't want to do any of that. I didn't want to mess with it. So I bought my Raspberry Pi with RetroPie already on there. And then I just added my ROMs and bio files. It came with all the BIOS, but I added the Sega CD one. And like I said, I just play it like that, and it's a great emulation thing. A little box you could just carry around. My kit came with a 30, I think it was a 32 gig SD card and two NES style USB controllers and a mini USB keyboard, which made it easy to enter the Wi-Fi stuff because it's it's just a little mini keyboard with the letters and stuff on there. So, but yeah, so that's it. Thank you so much for watching my videos. I appreciate all the comments and the likes and thumbs up, whatever. I love reading comments. I make these videos to help people out, and I really appreciate the people watch them and hit them with the like. Yeah, so that's it. Until my next video. Bye for now.